I got a few emails on how you would solve question 5 on page 381. So this comes from your lesson on simplifying rationals. This is actually a fairly complex question, and if this was an exam question, 5A would be worth 5 marks alone. So I'll show you how we would get the answer to 5A, and then I'll make another video to show you B and C. So in order to do 5A, it says a rectangular prism has a length of p centimeters. So what I'd need everybody to do is draw yourself a rectangular prism similar to what I have, and it says it has a length of p centimeters. So denote that with the letter or the variable p, and there's the length. Then what it says is the width and height are each 2 centimeters less than the length. So the width and the height are 2 centimeters less than the length. Well, if the length is p and the width is 2 centimeters less than that, it would be p minus 2. And the height, they said, is the same, p minus 2. So you get 1 mark just for filling in the length, width, and height of this rectangular prism. Then what it says, it says, well, what is the surface area of this rectangular prism? So surface area is imagining that this is a 3D shape and that you're painting it. So the first thing I would say to you is, so imagine that this square here, we're going to paint it purple. How would you calculate the area of this square? And hopefully you'd say, well, the area of the square is length times width, so p minus 2 times p minus 2. I could write that, actually I will. I'll write p minus 2 times p minus 2. So that's how you find the area of that square. But then I would say, well, how many squares are there? And hopefully you'd recognize that there's 2 squares. So what you would need to do that p minus 2 is you'd have to put a 2 in front of it. Okay, so that takes care of those 2 squares. From there, I'd be saying to you, well, what would we paint next? And hopefully you would see that we would paint one of the rectangles. So I'll color this orange, and there's 4 rectangles total. So if I said, well, what's the surface area of one of those rectangles? So I'm going to do add. We're going to add to this. The surface area of one of the rectangles is length times width. So the length of that rectangle is p. And then the width of that rectangle is p minus 2. So p times p minus 2. Now, I would then say, well, then we have to multiply that by however many rectangles there are. And hopefully you would see that in this question, or in any rectangular prism, there are 4 rectangles. Okay? So from here, this would give you 3 to 4 marks from this step here. What it says then, so this is the surface area, right? It's a really complex surface area. And then what they want you to do is they want you to write it in simplest factored form. So if I gave you this question, exactly what I have written, and I said factor this, here's how you would factor it. You draw yourself, there's 2 terms. So this is one term, and this is my second term. So if I said to you, well, factor, how would you factor this? What would you factor out from a 2 and a 4? So what's the biggest number that you could divide out from a 2 and a 4? And the biggest number you could divide out is a 2. So whatever you divide out, remember that goes in front of your bracket. Then look at your brackets. I've got a p minus 2, and a p minus 2. So what you could factor out is one of those p minus 2's from each side. So again, whatever you factor out goes in front of the bracket. And then there's nothing else I could factor out. So now I'm going to put my answer in this bracket, right? So whatever you factor, that's called your GCF, and your GCF goes in front of your bracket, your answer goes in the bracket. So 2 minus 2 cancel, p minus 2 divided by p minus 2 cancel, and what I'm left with on the left-hand side is p minus 2. And then I have plus. So from here, 4 divided by 2 is 2p. And I'm hoping that you see over here, p minus 2 and p minus 2, that cancels. So now I have 2p minus 2, and I'm going to clean up this bracket. This is a 1p, and I'm going to join that with 2p. Those are my like terms. 1p plus 2p is 3p minus 2. And this entire thing would be my surface area in factored form, in simplest factored form. And they say that my units were in centimeters. So then the very last thing I'd have to do is write down centimeters. Because this is surface area, it would be centimeters squared. Okay, so all of that would be worth 5 marks.